So pardon the crudeness here, but I have a list of things I want to get through, and I kind of threw this together. So I'm just going to pull this up over here so that I don't forget anything. So the first thing I want to talk about is some of the exceptions to week one. That do not expect this going forward, but just one of the things that I wanted to do with the week one assignments to kind of help make transitioning into the course a little bit easier. As you've seen already, I've given some of the feedback on the assignments that I have gotten through. Again, there are still more assignments that I need to grade, but you've got some feedback already. As I'm going through the week one assignments and grading those, I'm grading them the way that I normally would. However, something that I'm going to do for week one is, because it's the first week, we're all getting kind of used to how the course works, how my grading works, how the assignments work. What I'm going to do is any assignment that was due for week one, as long as you get that submitted by the end of week two, which is going to be this Sunday, September 4th at 11:59 p.m. Central Time, as long as any week one assignment, and for that matter, week two assignment is due before that deadline, or is turned in before that deadline, I'm not going to count off, I'm not going to apply a late penalty. Again, this is just an extension for week one because, again, I know some students may join the class late, we're still getting a feel for it, so if you did not submit an assignment for week one, go ahead and get that in. You won't be counted late for the week one stuff as long as it's submitted by the 11:59 p.m. Central Time, Sunday, September 4th deadline. So don't give up on something just because you didn't get it in. I will still give you full credit for those assignments from week one. Also, I am going to go back through the week one material, and once Unit 2 is over, once we go into Unit 3, I am actually going to, not only am I not giving you late penalties, I'm going to give everybody full credit for any assignment that was submitted during this time before September 4th at 11:59 p.m. The reason for that is a lot of students missed some stuff on the rubrics, or maybe didn't see the rubrics. I did include that in my welcome email, which, by the way, if you ever need to go back to these, you can go here to the announcement section. Rarely do I send out an email that won't be here on the announcements, and so this Welcome to Old Testament Survey 1 announcement, this has a lot of important information that you need to know for the course. If you've not read this announcement yet, please do. It got sent out as an email, but it'll always be located here under the announcements. Then I put out an announcement for week one stuff, so make sure you read that as well. And then I will try to each Thursday send out a reminder that the initial posts for your discussion boards are due. But all that to say, make sure you have read this Welcome to Old Testament Survey 1 announcement if you have not read that yet. Especially if you joined the course late, you may not have gotten that email when it went out. But again, the exceptions for week one are, first of all, I won't count any week one assignments late as long as they're submitted by 11:59 p.m. Central Time, September 4th, Sunday, September 4th. Also, those assignments that are submitted by that deadline, I will give full credit. Now you'll see I tried to get a lot of grading feedback on the assignments that were turned in. I'm probably giving more feedback than I usually would, but I think it's very important, especially the first week, to give as much feedback as possible so I can point out things you might have missed and how to get a better score moving forward. Another thing I want you to keep in mind is when I'm putting those grading notes in there, it's just text. There's no real tone that I can convey with it. So especially when I'm pointing out things for improvement, it may come off as cold or just extra critical. That's just information for you to improve your score, okay? You guys are adults. You can put in the time, the effort that you want to on these assignments. I just want to make sure that you have all the information you need to do as well as possible. I'm not offended if someone turns in an assignment and didn't put any effort into it. That doesn't bother me. That's your decision. I'm okay with that. Just understand that the score will probably reflect that. So again, the exception to week one is, as long as an assignment is turned in by September 4th, 11:59 p.m. Central Time, not only will it not have a late penalty, but I will go back in during week three and I will change all those scores to 100, or whatever the total possible points were, 100%, I should say. I haven't done that yet because I want you to see the score that you earned on these assignments. I want you to see how your grade would normally occur given what you submitted. I want you to see what's going to happen if you leave certain things out. But like I said, once we begin week three, I will go back into the week one assignments and I will give full credit to anything that was submitted by that September 4th deadline, okay? Unit 2 assignments that we're doing this week, those are still due September 4th. So if you didn't turn in something from Unit 1, you just have more to do this week. But I'm not changing the deadline for Unit 2, Unit 3, Unit 4, anything like that. Unit 2 will be graded as should be expected. There won't be any kind of buffers for Unit 2. I'm giving you a good buffer in Unit 1 so you can adapt and you can make changes as you need to. But once we get to the grading for Unit 2, I'm going to grade as I normally would. There may be less feedback. I'm still going to give you feedback, but it may be less detailed. Please, if you have any questions about the grading, let me know. Ask. You can text, you can call, you can email, whatever you want to do. You can leave comments in the grading box or the grading page for an assignment. Those, there's a chance I may not see because I don't get email notifications for those. The best thing to do is to email because I'll always have a record of that. But there's a lot of ways you can contact me. Please, if you have a question about your grade, don't hesitate to ask. I'm happy to explain, what I mean if something's confusing. And if I said you didn't do something and you can show me that you actually did, I don't mind changing your grade. Maybe I missed something. That's perfectly fine. But as we go forward, the feedback may be less detailed. That doesn't mean you can't ask questions. Always ask a question if you have one. All right, so that's it on the first week exceptions I want you to be aware of. I hope that's clear. If not, again, ask. But the basic idea is as long as it's in by 11:59 p.m. Central Time, September 4th, Sunday, Unit 1 assignments will not be counted late. And those assignments that are in by that time eventually will receive full credit, okay? Second, about attendance. I believe that I'm required to take attendance every single week in the course, and I believe that a student can only miss 2 weeks in this course or be counted absent 2 weeks and still pass. I believe I think it's 75% you have to be present. All you have to do to be counted present in this course is send me an email letting me know that you can't get something submitted or submit an assignment. Those are the only, if you do one of those two things, you're good. If you submit an assignment, you're present automatically. You're present for the week that you submitted it. If you submit a Unit 1 assignment during Unit 2 or during Week 2, that doesn't mean you're present for Week 1. That would count as a Week 2 participation. But if you know you're not going to be able to submit an assignment that week, if you're getting close to the deadline and you realize, oh no, I'm not going to submit anything, I don't want to be counted absent, send me an email saying I'm not going to be able to submit an assignment this week. That will count as your participation, okay? But remember, you can only get 2 absences in this course and still pass the course. There's a 75% attendance requirement, and this course is only 8 weeks long. All right, late penalties. I had some questions about this. I did discuss it in that welcome announcement, so go ahead and check that out if you want more details, due dates and late work. I know that when you take the sort of orientation quiz for this course, it says there is no late work accepted at all. That's sort of the general policy, but they give instructors flexibility on what they want to do with late work. And so my policy is just to give a 10% penalty for every day that an assignment is late. Now, there are special circumstances for the discussion boards. On those, that would only apply to your initial post. Anything posted on the discussion board after the Sunday evening deadline, anything posted after that will not be included in your grade, even if it's only a few minutes late. If it's past that Sunday deadline, it's not going to be part of my grading of your discussion for that week. If your initial post is a day late, then that'll just be a 90% cap on your score for that. It'll be a 10% penalty if it's a day late. But your follow-up posts and all that, those have to be in by the deadline, otherwise they won't be part of the grade. I hope that makes sense. If you have questions, again, reach out and let me know. A couple things about the discussion boards. You've probably seen some of this. I've only gotten one of the discussions for week 1 graded so far, but I just want to give you sort of an overview of some of the feedback and some of the things that people struggled with the most. So one of the things that you're graded on is, I think in the rubric it's under resources. This is how well you are integrating your textbook reading, the Hamilton Handbook to the Pentateuch, how well you're integrating that reading with the discussion question. And the way that you integrate that is not just to say Hamilton said this, and then hopefully if you say what Hamilton said, you've got a page number there. Page number citations are crucial. But in addition to just citing the textbook, I also want to see some evidence that you're actually critically evaluating. So if Hamilton says this, tell me, do you think Hamilton's right? Or do you think he's wrong? Do you agree with him or not? And not just do you agree, but why do you agree or why don't you agree? Show me your reasoning there. You don't have to do that every time you cite the textbook, but somewhere in your post, I need to see some critical thinking about your textbook. That's how you get a perfect score on the resources portion. Now, again, anytime you mention Hamilton, or anytime you mention any other scripture or any event in scripture, I recommend that you cite it. Give me a page number for Hamilton, give me chapter and verse for scripture. All right, now, again, not every single one has to have the citation, but you're not going to get full credit on the use of scripture and the use of resources, that is the textbook, if there aren't several examples of citation in your post. We want to see you pointing to the textbook and pointing to the scripture as you're answering these questions. The reflection section. Here, this is basically me evaluating how much thought is it evident that you've put into this. Like, are you just grabbing information from the textbook, grabbing information from the Bible and putting it on there? Or is it evident that you've thought through this and maybe even come up with kind of your own take? One of the ways that I gauge this is by whether or not you give examples of the points that you're making. So you might say something, you might give a general principle or an answer, but can you give me evidence for that? Can you give me examples, either from Hamilton or from the scriptures? And can you give me a little bit of detail there? Again, within reason, you don't have to go overboard. I understand that there's only, I think the recommendation is 150 to 200 words. You can do a good post. It may not be easy. You can do a good post in less than 150 words, and you can do a good post in more than 200 words, but that's sort of a target there. So I understand you're limited on how much you can communicate, but value citations of the textbook and evaluation of the textbook, value citations of scripture, and value specific examples of what you're saying. These are the things that are going to get you a full score on the discussion boards. And finally, interaction. This was a little bit confusing, or some people didn't quite see the instructions for this. Let me show you exactly how I'm grading your interaction. When you go to a discussion board, I'll just come over here and I'll pull up the Abraham one. This is the one that I've graded so far. The first thing you see here are instructions for your initial post. So obviously you need to fully answer whatever's here, and you should integrate insight from the textbook. So this is all the instructions for the initial post. Then there's a peer interaction component, and you need to have at least 3 substantial responses. Now, how do you know if your response is substantial? So altogether, to get a perfect score, you're going to need at least 4 posts. You need your initial post and then at least 3 substantial responses to get full credit. How do you know if a post or a response is substantial? Well, if it does one of these 4 things, it's substantial. You either need to show critical thinking with respect to another student's post. That means not just telling me that you, or telling them that you like this or you agree or you disagree, but why you agree or why you disagree. This is important, building off of their post, okay? So contributing to the conversation, offering something new. It can't just be restating what they said and that you liked it or you didn't like it. It's fine to do that, but you can't just do that and get full credit. Or you can revise your own initial post. Now maybe you don't want to just, you don't want to like copy and paste with changes. You may want to just tell me how you would revise it. You know, you don't necessarily have to repost the entire thing, but just post in a reply to your initial post. Here are some changes I would make to my initial post after the conversation. Be sure that you do this in a second post. Don't just edit your initial post, okay? So that's a second way that your response might be considered substantial. A third way is if you're asking thoughtful questions of one of your peers, but if you have a question, if you ask someone a question, you need to provide a tentative response. So if you're just asking someone, hey, what about this? Or how do you think this works? You need to say something like, how do you think this works? Do you think it might be that? And then give your tentative answer to how you think it works. And that way the student can think through your own reasoning and kind of evaluate. If you just say, hey, what about this? You're kind of just giving the student another research assignment to do. And that's not really fair if you haven't researched it yourself. So by all means, ask questions, but put some thought into the answer yourself before you ask it. And maybe even do a little research. If you don't know what the answer is, look around, do research in scripture, even research online is fine. Try to get some sort of an answer and then ask them, what do you think about this answer? But don't just put a question there. If you just put a question there, that's not really a substantial response. And then finally, what you can do is similar to posting revisions. You can make a new post, and I would do this in reply to your initial post. It doesn't have to be in reply. You could just do a brand new post and reply to the thread if you want. And what you would be doing there is just sort of summarizing the discussion. If there seems to be kind of 2 different opinions that emerge in the board, kind of summarize the first side and then the second side and sort of evaluate the 2. That would be considered substantial because you're contributing, you're kind of helping everybody digest what's been said. So that's good. Again, don't just summarize, think through it. Any post that is substantial needs to have some sort of critical thinking behind it, some sort of evaluation. So not just listing facts and information, but evaluating that information, giving reasons why you say what you say or think what you think. All right, so I wanted to make sure that I highlight this. Every single discussion board should have at the very top, your initial post instructions and then your peer interaction instructions, okay? So please check those and make sure that you understand what's necessary for your discussion posts. A final thing that I'll say is it's a very good idea to have the rubric in front of you while you're answering these discussion boards because that's what I'm using to evaluate your posts. As I read through your posts, I've got the rubric right next to me, and so I'm selecting the different categories based on what I see there. So as you make your own post, go through that rubric and say, okay, have I done everything in this proficient, I think, is the highest category. Have I done everything that's listed here, okay? All right, so that's discussion boards. Finally, let me go back here. The guided readings. I just want to clarify a little bit the purpose of the guided readings and the difference between the guided readings versus the discussion boards. They're there for 2 different purposes. The primary purpose of the guided readings is to guide you through the most important information in your textbook. All right, and so that's why there's page numbers there. It's kind of highlighting for you the most essential stuff. That doesn't mean that if you do the guided reading, you don't have to read the material. You do have to read the material, but the guided reading is just going to point you to the stuff that's most important. So if you're getting through, man, this is a lot of reading, what am I supposed to take away from this? The core things you're supposed to take away are what you see in the guided readings, okay? So your answers there don't need to be quite as reflective and in-depth as your discussion board. The purpose of the guided readings is to show me that you've interacted with the most important material and that you're aware of it. The purpose of the discussion boards is to see you think critically, to see you process and evaluate the information and kind of make it your own and incorporate it into your own understanding. So that's why those are 2 different assignments that have 2 different purposes, really. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, again, please let me know. I'm always available. Well, always available. I will be available as much as possible. I will try to answer any communication I get within 24 hours, unless it's over the weekend. If you send me something on Saturday, I may not get to it until Monday. Even if you send me something on Friday, I may not get to it until Monday. But I'm going to try to, if you send me something during the week, I'm going to try to get to it as soon as I can. I hope that you're enjoying the course so far. I know it's a lot of reading in a very short amount of time. You guys are troopers for going through this. I want to help. I want to help you succeed. So let me know if you're struggling, and I'll try to find a way to help you break through. There have been some amazing submissions for week 1. There have been some, honestly, just some disappointing submissions where it didn't feel like people were putting full effort into it. I'm okay with both. I really am. This is your course, and you're going to make of it what you want of it. I'm not offended. I know a lot of you, this is just a course you have to take, and maybe it's not the most important course to you, that's okay. It doesn't bother me. But I do want to, if you want to do well, I want to help you do well. So let me know how I can do that. And I will try to check in with each of you as much as I can, especially if I see that, something's late or something's not going well. I don't want you to fall through the cracks. So bottom line, I want you to feel welcome to reach out anytime you need to. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good week.